Hello and welcome back to Grim Tales. Before we begin, feel free to leave a comment and tell me where you're listening from. I love reading every single one. If you enjoy dark, twisted, grim tales that send chills down your spine, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Now, get comfortable, dim the lights if you dare, relax your mind, let the outside world fade away, and let's begin. Story 1, don't knock on my front door. Don't even try it. If you're selling something, keep walking. If you're collecting money for a school trip, go to the next house. I don't care if you see movement through the curtains or hear us whispering behind the wood. We won't answer. We won't open it. Not for anyone. We don't know who we can trust anymore. All we know is this: whatever is outside can't come in unless we let it. It started about a week ago when I was home alone. My wife and our 2 boys were visiting her mom in Phoenix for a few days. I should have been with them. I wanted to be with them. But my job has been hanging by a thread for months, and our company has been shrinking. People have been getting cut, one department at a time, like someone trimming a tree. I stayed back because I didn't want my boss thinking of me as unavailable when the next round hit. I told myself it was responsible. I told myself it was smart. Deep down, I knew I was scared of losing the one steady thing I had outside my family. Monday finally ended. The second it hit 5:00, I didn't hang around the office for small talk. I got in my car and drove home with that tired, hollow feeling you get after a day of staring at numbers that don't mean anything to you. On the way, I stopped for Chinese takeout, my usual place. If I couldn't sit in the sun with my family, I could at least sit in my living room with a container of General Tso's chicken and pretend that counted as comfort. I pulled into the garage, went inside, and changed into sweatpants and a plain t-shirt. I slipped on my old slippers and dropped into my La Z-Boy recliner like I'd been waiting for it all day. I turned on the TV, opened the takeout, and let out a long sigh, trying to push the stress out of my body. I'd barely been sitting there 15 minutes when the doorbell rang. It wasn't a polite little ding-dong either. It was loud, sharp, like someone leaned into it with purpose. I rolled my eyes and muttered, "Great, just great." I wasn't expecting anything. No packages, no neighbors, no friends. I don't even have friends who come by without texting first. Still, I walked to the front door and opened it, already irritated, and I froze. A man stood on my porch holding a brown leather briefcase with an old vacuum at his side. He looked like he'd stepped out of another decade. Not retro like a guy at a theme party. Real, like he belonged in an old black and white commercial. He wore perfectly polished black dress shoes, a light gray 3-piece tweed suit, and a matching gray fedora. He was tall and thin, with neatly styled brown hair, clean-shaven cheeks, and teeth so straight and bright they almost looked fake. His posture was perfect, like he'd practiced standing in front of doors his whole life. He smiled at me, took off his fedora, and in the smooth, quick voice that reminded me of an old baseball announcer, he said, "Good evening, sir. Always a pleasure to see a fellow citizen. I'm here on behalf of the Hoover Company. If I could, I'd like to come inside and take a moment to demonstrate the marvels of the modern home vacuum." For a second, I honestly thought I was being filmed, like someone had picked my house for some weird prank show. I couldn't help but chuckle. "Wow," I said, that's some outfit. I feel sorry for you wearing that in this heat. Is Hoover celebrating an anniversary or something?" The man didn't react the way a normal person would. He didn't laugh, didn't blink, didn't drop the act even a little. He just kept smiling like it was glued on. "No, sir, nothing special. Just the regular Hoover treatment. May I come in?" I squinted at him, my annoyance coming back. No." His smile disappeared like someone turned it off. For a moment, he just stared at me, blank, like he was waiting for a line to appear in his head. Then he said, "You won't let me in?" "No," I repeated. "Why not?" he asked, quieter this time. I felt my patience start to snap. "Look, man, this is my house. I don't need a reason not to let you in." He stared again. Then he whispered, "Please." That whisper hit me wrong. It wasn't desperate, like someone truly needing help. It was thin and careful, like he was trying a different key in a lock. "No," I said sharper. "Now get lost." I slammed the door in his face and stepped back into the entryway, breathing harder than I should have been. Through the frosted glass on the top half of the door, I could still see his silhouette, standing on my porch like he hadn't moved at all. I held my breath and watched, waiting for him to walk away. 1 minute passed. 2, 3, the silhouette didn't shift. He just stood there. My anger got the better of me. I yanked the door open and shouted, "Get off my porch right now or I'm calling the cops." He looked at me with that same wide smile, except now it seemed wider, stretched. He didn't argue. He didn't apologize. He just waited, staring into my eyes like he was memorizing me. Then, after about 30 seconds, he walked backward off my porch. He didn't turn around. He didn't break eye contact. He kept smiling as he backed down the steps across the walkway to the sidewalk. Only when he reached the sidewalk did he finally turn and walk away. I locked the front door immediately and went back to my recliner, trying to laugh it off as a strange encounter. I finished my dinner. I watched a few shows. I went to bed, telling myself the day was over. At 1:00 a.m., the doorbell rang again. I woke up in a panic, not sure how long it had been ringing. My bedroom was dark. My throat felt tight. I stumbled into the hallway, half asleep, hoping it was just a dream. As I got closer to the front door, I saw a bright light shining through the glass, throwing a long shadow into the house. When I opened the door, the light was blinding for a moment, and it took my eyes a second to adjust. A man stood there in a police uniform. He spoke in a loud, official voice. "Sir, I'm with the police. We received a complaint from this address earlier today. May I come in and discuss the details?" My brain was foggy. "Wait, what are you talking about?" "Just following up on the call we received, sir. May I come in and take your statement?" I blinked, and confusion turned into suspicion. I never called the police today. I know for a fact no one else here did either. The man paused. "All the same, sir, if I could come in, we could clear this all up." That's when I noticed his uniform wasn't modern. It looked old, like something from an 80s cop show. He had worn dark aviator sunglasses, even though it was the middle of the night, and a thick handlebar mustache sat over his lip like it was part of the costume. I asked, "What's your badge number?" No answer. "Do you have a warrant?" "No," he said simply. "Then you can't come in." He tilted his head slightly. "If I had one, would you let me in?" I didn't respond. I just slammed the door and locked it, my hands shaking. For the next 15 minutes, he pounded on my door with his fist. Not frantic, angry and steady, like punishment. When it finally stopped, I waited in silence, listening. After about an hour, I convinced myself he was gone and crawled back into bed. When morning came, the memory of the night felt unreal, like it belonged to someone else. I blamed it on the greasy food and the stress. I showered, ate a simple breakfast, and left for work trying to pretend I was fine. Work was the same dull grind. I'm an accountant at a company that's slowly dying, and every day feels like watching water drain from a tub. All day I thought about my family and wished I'd gone with them. When 5:00 hit, I left immediately and sat in rush hour traffic, trapped between other tired people going to other quiet homes. It was 6:30 by the time I pulled into my neighborhood. As I turned onto my street, I saw someone standing on my front porch. A man in a light gray jumpsuit, like something a plumber or janitor might wear in a movie. He stood facing my door, one hand raised, knocking in a slow, constant way, not ringing the bell, knocking like he'd been doing it for a long time. "No way," I said out loud. I drove past the front of the house toward the garage, not taking my eyes off him. As my car moved, his head slowly turned and followed me. His body didn't move at first, just his head, tracking me like a security camera. The last thing I saw in my side mirror before I disappeared around the corner was him stepping off the porch and walking toward the garage. My stomach dropped. "Not again," I muttered. By the time I parked and got out, he was already there, standing just outside the open garage door like there was an invisible line he couldn't cross. He didn't look wet, even though it had rained earlier. His jumpsuit was clean. Too clean. "Hello," he said in a cheerful voice. "We received a call earlier about a busted pipe, and no one has answered the door. May I come in and take a look?" I stared at him as he spoke. His eyes didn't blink once. His smile was wide and fixed, like it was his default face. No one called you," I said. "No one has even been here all day. Get out of here." The corners of his mouth twitched. Through the gritted teeth of that smile, he said, "So you're here alone?" My throat tightened. "That's none of your business. Leave." And just like that, his expression snapped back to friendly. Like a switch flipped. "Really, sir, I must insist," he said, bright and smooth. "Just let me come in and take a look. Dealing with a flooded basement isn't a relaxing way to spend the evening." "No," I said, louder. "I insist that you leave right now, and don't ever come back." His unblinking eyes narrowed. The unreal smile returned as he backed away slowly. When he reached the end of my driveway, he stopped and said, very quietly, "See you later." Then he turned and walked away like he had all the time in the world. I shut the garage door and went inside, trying to calm myself down. I showered, changed, and forced myself to focus on normal things. I'd planned to grill steaks that night. I'd taken them out that morning to defrost. I didn't want to let this weirdness ruin the one good thing I had to look forward to. But shortly after my shower, it started raining again. And this time, it got heavy fast. I didn't want to give up on steak, so I decided to grill in the garage. I pulled one car out, left the garage open a crack for the smoke, and set everything up. The smell of the meat cooking mixed with the cool, earthy smell of rain. For a few minutes, my nerves settled. I focused on flipping the steaks, listening to the sizzle, telling myself those visitors were just random weirdos and I'd overreacted. Then I saw movement outside, a figure running through the heavy rain. At first, I thought it was someone jogging, but they were coming straight toward my house, straight toward the garage. When they got closer, I realized it was a young girl, maybe 12 years old, drenched and crying. She sprinted as hard as she could, but when she reached the edge of the garage, she stopped instantly, like she'd hit a sudden fear. I stared at her, cautious. Even through the rain, it was obvious she was sobbing. My guard slipped for a second, because she was a kid, and something in me reacted before my brain could catch up. I stepped closer to the opening. "Hey," I called out. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" Through sobs, she said, "They're chasing me. They want to hurt me. Please help me." I took another step. "Who's chasing you? How can I help?" Her crying slowed. A thin grin started to spread across her face, like the sadness had been a mask that slipped. "Can I come inside?" she asked. "I don't think they'll find me if I'm in there." That was the moment the fear hit me properly. Not panic. Recognition, a cold, sharp warning in the back of my mind. I stared at her face. She wasn't blinking. Her eyes were open wide and steady, staring into me like she was waiting for a specific answer. And then I knew who she looked like. everyone in the area knew. Last summer, a local girl had been taken while riding her bike to a friend's house. The whole neighborhood searched for weeks. Her parents went on the news, crying and begging for information. Months passed with no sign of her. Then, in late September, they found her body floating face down in a nearby reservoir. The girl in front of my garage was wearing the same clothes that girl had been found in. A white long-sleeve shirt and dark blue jeans with mud stains around the knees. My blood felt like it turned to ice. The thing in front of me smiled wider, like it was pleased that I noticed. The fingers on its left hand twitched violently, as if they had too much energy in them. My mouth went dry. I forced out one question. "What are you?" Its head snapped sideways at an unnatural angle, like it didn't have the right joints. Then it replied in a cheerful voice, through clenched teeth, "I'm a little girl." Immediately, its face dropped back into that fake crying expression, as if it was trying on emotions. "And I really need to hide in your house," it said, voice trembling on purpose. "Please, mister, they'll get me." Sweat ran down my forehead. I shook my head slowly. "Go away," I stuttered. The girl's lips pulled back, and a low growl came out, deep and wrong for a child. Malice filled its eyes. For one terrible second, we just stared at each other in silence. Then it lunged. It moved fast, like a striking animal. It threw itself toward me, but the instant it reached the threshold of the garage opening, it stopped hard, like it slammed into invisible glass. Its whole body jerked, and then it started screaming. "Let me in." It shrieked, over and over, in that same raspy voice. It swung its fists forward, banging at the empty air like it was pounding on an unseen door. I didn't even grab the stakes. I turned, hit the garage door button, and ran into the house. That night was hell. Whatever was outside didn't leave. It screamed and pounded on every door and window like it was trying to shake the house apart. The scream wasn't like a person yelling. It was angry and primal, like something that had never been human was trying to imitate human rage. Every bang made me flinch. Sure, the windows would shatter, or the door would split, but nothing gave. The glass rattled. The frames creaked. The whole house trembled at times, but it held. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Even upstairs, I heard pounding at my bedroom window. Sometimes, when headlights from passing cars swept across the front of the house, I saw shadows move across the curtains. Sometimes the shadow looked like a little girl. Sometimes it looked like a man in a fedora holding a vacuum. Sometimes it looked like the old cop with a mustache. But no matter what shape it tried on, the sound was the same. That same inhuman scream I'd first heard in the garage ripping through the night. I ended up locking myself in the upstairs bathroom, sitting on the floor with my back against the tub, holding my phone like it could protect me. I didn't call 911 because I couldn't even explain what was happening without sounding insane. And some part of me was afraid that if the police showed up and knocked on my door, I wouldn't know whether to let them in. Morning finally came. And exactly 30 minutes after sunrise, it stopped. No final bang. No footsteps fading away. Just silence, like someone cut the sound off. After a whole night of noise, the quiet felt wrong. Too clean. I waited a long time before moving. Then I crept out of the bathroom, went to the bedroom window, and carefully looked out. Nothing. An ordinary morning in an ordinary neighborhood. Birds, sunlight, empty sidewalks. No stranger on my lawn. No little girl in muddy jeans. No fedora. No flashlight. No uniform. Downstairs, I checked every window and every door. There wasn't even a scratch on the glass. No dents in the door, no broken plants, no disturbed gravel. Nothing that matched what I'd heard all night. It made me feel like I was losing my mind. I called my boss and told him I was sick. I said I wouldn't be in for a few days. He replied in this flat, sarcastic voice, "Just know I'll remember this in a few months." I didn't care. Being laid off was nothing compared to what was happening at my house. The next few days blurred together into one long stretch of dread. Every evening around 7 p.m., it would come back. A figure would stand on my porch and knock. "Hello? Anyone in there? May I come in? Please?" Sometimes it used a little girl's voice. Sometimes it pretended to be a police officer again. Sometimes it spoke like a salesman, smooth and upbeat. Other times it tried new voices. "May I come in?" asked an elderly woman once, sounding like she was smiling through the words. "Come on, man, let me in," a teenage boy said another time, annoyed like I owed him something. It tried accents too, but it couldn't hold them. It would start with a Russian accent and drift into something that sounded vaguely Spanish. Its British accent would suddenly turn into a deep southern drawl. It kept trying anyway, like it was flipping through options. And every night, the longer I refused, the angrier it got. The polite knocking turned to heavy pounding. The calm voice turned sharp. The sharp voice turned into screaming. But every morning, 30 minutes after sunrise, it stopped again. I didn't sleep. Not really. I would doze for minutes at a time, jolting awake at every sound. I stopped going outside. I stopped opening curtains. I started jumping at my own refrigerator, turning on. The worst part was knowing I couldn't stay locked up forever. My wife and boys were flying back soon. My oldest had baseball practice starting, and they needed to get home. I was supposed to pick them up at the airport. I thought about telling my wife to take an Uber, but I couldn't do it. Not after what I'd seen. Not after hearing voices pretending to be people. I wouldn't trust anyone bringing them home. I needed to see them with my own eyes, walking off the plane, in a place with cameras and crowds and bright lights. So, with shaking hands, I opened the garage door from inside and stood there, staring out, waiting for something to rush at me. Nothing happened. I waited longer. Still nothing. Finally, I got in my car, shut the garage, and drove to the airport like my life depended on it. Seeing them was like breathing after being underwater. My wife looked tired from travel, but smiled when she saw me. My boys were loud and full of energy, complaining about the flight and arguing about snacks like nothing in the world could ever touch them. I hugged my wife hard. When she pulled back, she studied my face. "Dear, you look terrible," she said, concern filling her voice. "I'll explain later," I said, forcing a weak smile. "I'm just really glad to see you." She kissed my cheek. "We missed you." On the drive home, I tried to tell them. I kept it as simple as I could, but it still sounded insane coming out of my mouth. Strange people at the door. A salesman dressed like the 60s. A cop in an old uniform. A little girl who should have been dead. The screaming. The pounding. The way it stopped exactly 30 minutes after sunrise. I suggested we stay in a hotel for a few nights until I figured things out. My wife looked at me and gently put her hand on my arm. "Are you feeling okay, honey?" My youngest son laughed from the back seat. "Have you been smoking weed, Dad?" My wife shot him a look and said, "I'm sure you're just stressed and haven't been sleeping. I'll rub your shoulders tonight. You'll feel better." I didn't know how to argue without sounding worse, so I nodded and stared at the road, waiting for 7 p.m., waiting for them to hear it for themselves. But 7:00 came, and nothing happened. No knock, no voice, no footsteps on the porch. I sat near the front door, checking the clock again and again. 7:30, 8:00, 8:30. Still nothing. The house felt normal in a way that made me dizzy. like it was trying to convince me that the last week never happened. By 8:30, I let myself breathe a little. Maybe it was gone. Maybe it had been some strange string of coincidences. Maybe sleep deprivation had turned my brain into an enemy. I paced until almost 10:00, and my wife finally asked if I was coming to bed. I went upstairs, still tense, still listening for something that wasn't there. She rubbed my shoulders like she promised, and for the first time in days, my body started to unclench. I fell asleep fast. Deep sleep. The kind you only get when you've been running on fear for too long. I woke up in the morning feeling refreshed, almost normal. Sunlight spilled into the room. The air felt calm. No pounding. No screaming. No voices asking to come in. I stretched and actually smiled to myself. I'm so glad that's over, I thought. I went to the kitchen, made coffee, and toasted bread. I sat at the table, scrolling through Facebook, letting my mind drift back into everyday life. A few minutes later, I heard my oldest son come downstairs. He walked into the kitchen with a big grin like he was about to say something funny. I nodded at him. Morning, he went to the cupboard to grab a bowl for cereal. His back was to me when he spoke, casual, like it was no big deal at all. "Hey, Dad," he said, still smiling. "Why did you need me to let you in last night?" Story 2. I do not really know who I should talk to about this, and I do not even know if anyone will believe me, so I decided to write it down here. Maybe somebody has heard of something like this before. Maybe somebody knows what it means. Or maybe I just need to put it somewhere, because keeping it inside my head is starting to make me feel like I am losing my mind. My name is John. I just turned 20, and I live in a small town in the Black Forest called Alpersbach. If you do not know the area, it is the kind of place people describe as peaceful when they visit it for a weekend. There are mountains, old houses, narrow roads, thick woods, small villages, and that clean forest air that makes everything feel calm during the day. People here are mostly friendly. They say hello when you pass them. They ask about your work. They remember your face after seeing you twice. It is the opposite of where I grew up. I am from a big city, the kind of place where nobody looks at anyone for too long, and every street is noisy, even at night. I moved here 2 months ago because I got a better job, but also because of my girlfriend, Alina. She does not live directly in Alpersbach. She lives a few villages away, but she is close enough now that I can see her much more often. Before I moved, I visited whenever I had time off, and every visit felt too short. We have been together for 2 years now. We do not live together yet, but we have talked about it many times, and we are slowly working toward it. Until recently, I really thought everything in my life had finally become good. I had a well-paid job, a girlfriend I loved, and a nice place to live surrounded by nature. I was not rich, and I was still adjusting to the quiet life here, but it felt like a fresh start. Then strange things began happening, and at first I tried to ignore them, because that is what people do when something does not fit into normal life. They tell themselves it is stress, tiredness, or imagination. But the more I ignored it, the worse it felt. Alpersbach is right in the middle of the Black Forest. The town is surrounded by mountains, caves, deep valleys, and woods that go on so far you can stand at the edge of a trail and feel like the trees are watching you. People do go missing here sometimes. That is not a secret. Hikers get lost, older people wander too far, tourists take the wrong path, or someone underestimates the weather. I looked it up because I was curious after hearing people talk about it. Usually in Alpersbach it is not a huge number. Maybe 1 or 2 people disappear every few years, and most of the time they are found quickly. Sometimes they are injured, sometimes they are just embarrassed. But in the last month, things changed. At least one person has gone missing every week. And as far as I know, none of them have been found. That already made me uneasy, but the sounds at night made it worse. My place is not far from the woods, and on normal nights, I can hear the usual things. Wind in the branches, dogs barking from nearby houses, a car passing once in a while. But recently, I started hearing noises coming from the direction of the forest that did not sound right. Sometimes it sounded like people speaking, but too far away to understand. Sometimes it sounded like wolves howling. Once or twice, I swear I heard something like a bear roaring, even though there are not supposed to be bears in the Black Forest. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself I was sleep-deprived because of work. I told myself that forests make strange sounds at night, and city people always overreact when they move somewhere quiet. The day before yesterday, I had the day off and decided to visit Alina. I wanted to catch the bus at 6 in the morning, so I got up at 5:30. I showered, got dressed, made myself look less dead, and packed a few things. Somehow, I still lost track of time. I stepped outside and saw the bus driving away right in front of me. I stood there like an idiot with my bag over my shoulder, watching it disappear down the road. The next bus would not come for about 2 hours, and I did not want to wait. Alina was expecting me for breakfast, and I knew she would tease me all day if I missed it again. So I decided to take the forest path. I had taken that path before, and I actually liked it. It takes longer than the bus route. The path itself is about 30 minutes, and then I still have to walk more after that, so reaching Alina's place takes around an hour. But it is a beautiful walk, especially in the morning. There are hills, tall trees, and a stream running along one side for part of the way. The air feels cooler there, and when the sun rises through the trees, the whole place looks like something from a painting. Since I had time and did not want to stand around waiting, I started walking toward the entrance. It was still early, that gray time between night and morning. Outside the forest, the world was getting lighter, but under the trees it was still dark. I could see the entrance to the path about 100 meters ahead. At first, I noticed a small dark spot in front of it. I thought maybe the town had put up a new sign or a small post, because I did not remember anything standing there before. As I got closer, the shape became clearer, and I realized it was not a sign. It was an animal. A dog was sitting at the entrance. It was not walking around, sniffing, barking, or acting lost. It was just sitting there in the middle of the path entrance, completely still, facing me. Its eyes were fixed on me in a way that made me slow down without meaning to. A squirrel ran across the ground near it, but the dog did not even turn its head. It did not blink. It did not move. Its whole focus stayed on me. I took a few more steps and told myself I was being stupid. It was only a dog. I like dogs. Most of them like me too. Maybe it belonged to somebody nearby and had wandered out early. Maybe it was waiting for its owner. Still, the way it stared made my skin tighten. I stepped to the right, just to see if it was actually looking at something behind me. Its eyes followed me. I stepped to the left. Its eyes followed again. That was when I noticed something else about them. I know this sounds strange, but its eyes looked almost human. Not exactly human, but too aware, too still, like there was more behind them than there should have been. When I got closer, I could see the breed. It was an Aussie doodle, or at least it looked like one. It had curly, messy fur, and in normal daylight, it probably would have looked cute. But there, sitting at the dark entrance to the woods, staring at me like it had been waiting, it did not look cute at all. It looked wrong. I thought about turning around. I really did. But then I thought about Alina waiting for me, and I thought about how ridiculous it would sound if I told her I was late. because a dog looked at me. So I kept walking. I passed the dog and stepped onto the forest path. As I went by, the smell hit me. It smelled like wet, musty dog fur, but there was something underneath it, something rotten, something like old meat and blood, the kind of smell that makes your stomach twist before your brain understands it. I held my breath and walked faster. The dog did not bark. It did not follow. At least I did not hear it follow. It just sat there. Once I was farther into the woods, the path looked as beautiful as it always did. Thin morning light came through the trees. The stream moved quietly beside the trail. Moss covered rocks near the water, and the air was cold enough to wake me up. But the beauty did not calm me. It only made the silence more noticeable. It was too quiet. At that time in the morning, I should have heard birds. I should have heard small animals moving through leaves, squirrels, insects, branches shifting, anything. But there was nothing. No birdsong. No rustling in the brush. Not even the usual tiny sounds that make a forest feel alive. My own footsteps seemed loud. The stream sounded distant, even when I was walking right beside it. I tried to stay calm. I told myself it was just early. Maybe animals were not active yet. Maybe the weather was strange. Maybe I had scared myself because of that dog at the entrance. But then I reached the deer enclosure. There is a small deer enclosure along the path. Usually the deer are lying around, eating, or standing near the fence, waiting for people to throw them food. I always slow down when I pass them because I like watching them. But that morning, all 6 deer were standing together in one corner of the enclosure. They were pressed close to each other, facing away from me and toward the trees behind the fence. I stopped for a second. Their ears were up. Their bodies were stiff. None of them turned to look at me. It was like they were trying not to move, or like something beyond the fence had their attention completely. Seeing animals act scared is different from seeing people act scared. Animals do not pretend. They do not make things dramatic. They just react. And those deer were reacting to something. My breath caught in my throat. I kept walking, but now every shadow between the trees felt deeper. I had the feeling I was being watched. Sometimes I thought I heard rustling behind a tree or in the bushes beside the path, but whenever I looked, there was nothing. I kept telling myself, "Calm down, John. You are tired. You are thinking too much. It is just a forest. It is just a walk." The path was finally coming to an end, and I was honestly glad. Usually I liked reaching the open road after the forest, but that morning it felt like I was escaping something. Then I saw what was waiting at the exit, and my heart dropped so hard I actually stopped walking. The same dog was sitting there, the same Aussie doodle, the same still body, the same eyes locked on me. It sat at the end of the path as if it had been there the whole time, waiting for me to come out. I looked behind me. I looked around. There was no way it had simply run past me on the path. I had not heard it. I had not seen it. Maybe it had cut through the woods. Dogs are fast, and forest animals know shortcuts. That was the explanation I forced into my head because I needed one. But even then, something about it felt impossible. The smell was there again when I got closer. Wet fur. Rotting meat. Blood. I took out my phone and snapped a picture. My hands were shaking more than I wanted to admit. I thought maybe Alina would know whose dog it was. Maybe it belonged to someone in her village. Maybe this whole thing would turn into a normal story about a creepy dog with a bad smell and nothing more. The dog did not move when I took the photo. It only stared. I walked past it and kept going. The rest of the way to Alina's place was normal. I walked along the road, past a few houses, saw someone loading tools into a van, and heard normal morning sounds again. That should have made me feel better, but the dog stayed in my mind. For some reason, it scared me in a way I could not explain. It was not just that it looked at me, it was the feeling that it knew me, like it was not watching a stranger, like it had chosen me. When I arrived at Alina's place, she opened the door and smiled, but her smile faded when she saw my face. "Babe, are you okay?" she asked. I said I was fine, just tired from a few exhausting days at work. I did not want to worry her. Alina has already been through a lot. Her parents died not long ago, and even though she is strong, I know she still carries that pain every day. I did not want to walk into her kitchen and start talking about missing people, strange noises in the woods, scared deer, and a dog with human eyes. So we had breakfast like normal. We talked, laughed a little, and spent the day together. By the afternoon, I felt calmer. I almost convinced myself I had overreacted. At 6 in the evening, I left her place because I had promised my friends I would play games with them that night. The walk home was fine. Nothing happened. By the time I got home, the memory of the dog had already started to feel like a weird dream. Then, yesterday morning came. I wanted to visit Alina again. I got ready, left the house, and somehow missed the bus again. I know how stupid that sounds. I do not know how I keep doing it. Maybe I am just bad at mornings. I stood there, annoyed with myself, when the father of my coworker Jan drove by. His name is Peter. He recognized me and slowed down. "Missed it again?" he asked. I laughed awkwardly and said yes. He offered to drive me part of the way, and I accepted because I did not want to take the forest path again if I did not have to. I got into his Chevrolet, thanked him, and we started driving. The road runs near the forest path, so we passed the entrance after a few minutes. I tried not to look, but of course I did. And there it was. The dog. That same goddamn Aussie doodle was sitting at the entrance, staring toward the road, but I knew it was staring at me. I could feel it even from inside the car. Its head did not move like a normal dog watching a vehicle pass. Its eyes stayed fixed, and for 1 second, as we drove by, I felt like it was looking straight through the window and into my chest. I swallowed and looked away. Peter was talking about work, and I forced myself to answer like nothing was wrong. He talked about Jan, the town, the weather, and how life in a small place can feel boring until something bad happens. I nodded, but my mind stayed on the dog. A few minutes later, we reached the part of the road where I could see the exit of the forest path. If I had been standing, I think my knees would have given out. The dog was there too. The same dog. Sitting at the exit. Staring again. This time I could not use the same explanation. The day before, I had told myself it could have run through the woods faster than me. But a dog cannot be faster than a car driving along the road. There was no way it had been at the entrance and then at the exit within minutes unless there were two identical dogs sitting in the same way, staring with the same dead focus. Peter seemed to notice my silence. Without looking at me, he said something that made my blood go cold. You know, he said, "People say things roam around in these woods." I turned my head slowly toward him. He kept driving, his eyes on the road. I think these missing people are not coincidences. I did not answer. I did not know what to say. I wanted to ask him what things. I wanted to ask if he had seen the dog. I wanted to ask if people here knew something and just chose not to say it directly. But the words stayed stuck in my throat. It was too much at once, and some part of me still wanted to stay in the normal world. The world where dogs are dogs and missing hikers are just lost. Peter dropped me off near Alina's place, and I thanked him. I walked to her door with my thoughts racing so fast that I barely remembered the last part of the drive. Alina was happy to see me. She made breakfast, and I sat at the table across from her, trying to act normal. But I could not stop thinking about the dog. After a while, I took out my phone and opened the photo I had taken the day before. I tried to sound casual when I showed it to her. "Babe," I said, "I saw this dog yesterday on my way here. Do you know him by any chance?" She looked at the picture and answered right away. "Yeah, that's Sammy," she said. "He belongs to Conrad, the farmer around the corner." The answer should have helped. It should have made everything simple. The dog had a name. He had an owner. He belonged somewhere. But instead, I felt worse. "Weird," I said. "He was sitting at the forest path yesterday." Alina shrugged like it was not a big deal. "Maybe he got out." Then we kept eating. I did not push it with her. She did not seem worried, and I did not want to drag her into my fear. But later that afternoon, I decided to visit Conrad. I told Alina I wanted to take a short walk. The way to his place was a simple gravel road along the street. His house was not really a house. It was more like an old hut, small and worn down, with crooked wood and a roof that looked like it had survived too many winters. The whole place looked like it might collapse if the wind blew too hard. I stood outside for a moment, took a breath, and knocked. An old, skinny man opened the door. His gray hair was slicked back, and he had only a few yellow teeth left. The door looked almost as fragile as he did, like it could fall off the hinges if he pulled it too hard. He stared at me with narrow eyes. In his right hand, he held a half-empty bottle of whiskey. "Are you Conrad?" I asked. He growled, "Who wants to know?" I tried to keep my voice calm. "I'm Alina's boyfriend." His expression changed a little. Not friendly, exactly, but less sharp. "Oh, her? What do you want?" I took out my phone and opened the photo of the dog. "Is this your dog?" He looked at the screen. "Yeah," he said coldly. "That's Sammy." I felt my stomach tighten. "Are you missing him by any chance?" "I saw him yesterday and today near the forest path." Conrad stared at me. For a moment, he looked angry. Then something else crossed his face. Pain, maybe. His eyes became wet. "That's impossible," he said. His voice was lower now. "Sammy has been dead for a few days." Neither of us said anything for a moment. I looked down at the phone in my hand. The picture was still there. The dog was sitting at the path entrance, staring at the camera. I had taken it myself. I knew I had. "I'm sorry," I said slowly. "But I swear I saw him." Conrad breathed through his nose and looked away. "You must have mistaken him for another dog." "I don't think so." He rubbed his face with the hand holding the bottle, then lowered it. "I haven't had the heart to bury him yet." Then he stepped outside. I followed him a few feet around the side of the hut, even though every instinct in me was telling me not to. A tarp lay on the ground near an old shed. Conrad bent down and lifted it. I almost fell backward. Under the tarp was the Aussie doodle, Sammy, the exact same dog I had seen at the forest path. The same fur, the same size, the same markings. Only now he was not sitting. He was lying on his side, dead and stiff. His throat had been torn open. The fur around his neck was dark and matted. His belly was ripped badly, and where the liver should have been, there was an open wound. The flesh had been pulled apart, and the liver was gone. I covered my mouth because I thought I was going to throw up. Conrad looked down at the dog with tears in his eyes. "Sammy was a good dog," he said. "I found him Sunday morning. I think it was a wolf. Wolf sightings have been increasing lately. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe a wolf had killed Sammy, and I had simply seen another dog that looked the same. But I could still see the photo on my phone. I could still smell that rotten, wet fur smell. I could still remember those eyes. "I'm sorry for your loss," I said. Then I left. I walked back to Alina's place with my legs feeling weak. Every sound from the bushes made me turn my head. Every dog bark in the distance made my heart jump. When I got back, Alina asked where I had been. I lied. I told her I had gone for a walk and talked to my mother on the phone. I know that was wrong. I do not want to lie to her. I hate lying to her. But how could I tell her? How could I say that the dog she recognized was dead under a tarp, with its throat open and its liver missing, but I had seen it watching me from both ends of the forest path? She has already lost so much. Her parents are gone. I do not want to put more fear into her life unless I know what is happening. I am writing this now during the night between Tuesday and Wednesday. Alina is asleep beside me. She looks peaceful, and I keep trying to focus on that. I keep telling myself that as long as I am here, as long as I can feel her breathing and hold her close, everything is still normal. But it is not normal. It has not been normal since I saw that dog sitting at the entrance to the woods. I have not been able to sleep properly since then. Every time I close my eyes, I see Sammy staring at me. I see the deer standing together in the corner of the enclosure. I see Conrad lifting the tarp. I see that open throat and the place where the liver was missing. And I keep thinking about what Peter said in the car. People say things roam around in these woods. I do not know what he meant. I do not know if something is copying Sammy, using his shape to watch people, or if something worse is walking around wearing the memory of him. I do not know if the missing people saw it too. Maybe they heard a voice in the woods. Maybe they followed something familiar. Maybe they saw a dog at the path and thought it was lost. All I know is that I do not want to lose Alina. She is all I have. I moved here to be closer to her, not to bring something from the woods to her door. A few minutes ago, I heard barking. It came from the direction of the forest path. Not loud at first, just one bark, far away. Then another, then a few more, closer together. It sounded like a dog, but there was something wrong with it. The sound had too much space inside it, like it was coming from a mouth that was bigger than it should be. Alina stirred in her sleep, and I held her tighter. The barking has stopped now. But the woods outside are quiet again. Too quiet. The same kind of quiet I heard on the path that morning. If anything else happens, I will post it here. Story 3. I clicked on the headline because I thought it sounded strange in the exact way I like strange things. The headline said, "Man writes story of his own imminent death." It was the kind of line that makes you stop scrolling even when you know you should not. I thought it was probably going to be one of those weird internet stories. Maybe a creepy coincidence. Maybe some fake article written to make people share it. I thought it might be a little spooky, maybe even funny in a dark way. I did not think it would lead me to sitting here in my living room with all the lights on, staring out my front window like the porch is a crime scene that has not happened yet. I know exactly why I clicked it. I am the kind of person the internet was built to trap. I can admit that. Whatever system they use, whether it is a group of coders, an AI, a tracking program, or some mix of all of them, it works on me almost every single time. The algorithm knows me too well. It knows when I am bored. It knows when I am tired. It knows when I am eating alone after work and scrolling without thinking. It knows I will ignore normal headlines, but if it gives me something like, "You won't believe how big this cat is," I am gone. I click. If it says this one food can add 10 years to your life, I click. I do not even fully believe those things, but that does not matter. My thumb moves before my brain can stop it. And it is not only the usual cheap clickbait either. The really strange headlines get me even faster. Man swallows snake. Click. Woman accidentally dates her sister. Click. Family finds room behind bathroom mirror. Click. Doctors remove something impossible from man's ear. Click. I hate how predictable I am, but I also cannot pretend I am not predictable. The internet knows what kind of curiosity lives in my head, and it feeds it exactly the right way. It is creepy when you think about it too long. It is creepy that a machine can know which words will pull you in, which little pieces of fear or shock or wonder will make you stop everything and look. Still, this one felt different. I did not know that at first. At first, it was just another weird headline on another slow afternoon before my evening shift. I was sitting on my couch in the house I rent in Darlington Heights, a quiet neighborhood in Southdale. The TV was on, but I was not watching it. Some cooking show was playing with the volume low. I had my phone in one hand, my coffee getting cold on the table, and my work boots already by the door because I was planning to leave for the warehouse later. That was all. A normal day. A boring day. Then I saw the headline. Man writes story of his own imminent death. I actually laughed a little when I read it. Not because death is funny, obviously, but because it sounded like the kind of dramatic thing people online make up all the time. I thought maybe it was about some guy posting a horror story to Reddit, then dying later in a way that seemed connected. Maybe it was one of those stories people pass around with no proof. Maybe it would end with the police saying there was no mystery at all, just a tragic accident. I expected to read it, feel a little chill, and then move on. So I tapped it. The article was not long. That made it worse, somehow. Long articles give you room to doubt them. They have details, quotes, filler, background, advertisements, and too many words. This one was short and plain. It sounded like local news, dry and careful, as if whoever wrote it was trying not to say anything strange while talking about something very strange. I pasted the article below because I need other people to see the exact words. I need to know if anyone else sees what I saw, or if I am losing it. A 44-year-old Southdale man died today after suffering fatal injuries outside his home in the Darlington Heights neighborhood, authorities said. According to police, the man stepped onto his front porch to retrieve a food delivery order shortly before the incident occurred. Neighbors described him as quiet and reserved. He reportedly worked evenings at a nearby warehouse and occasionally played guitar. He mostly kept to himself, said one neighbor. We would talk once in a while, but mostly he just asked about my birds. Investigators say the man had earlier posted a story to the popular Reddit forum r/nosleep that appeared to describe his own death that would occur later that same day on his front porch. The post ended with the phrase, "I'm definitely not going outside today." When last checked, the post had not been taken down. Authorities have yet to release details regarding the cause of his death, and the incident remains under investigation. Castro will continue to provide updates as more information becomes available. That was it. I read it once. Then I read it again. Then I read it a third time, slower, because my brain kept trying to make it about someone else. The problem is, I am a 44-year-old man living in Darlington Heights, Southdale. I know that does not automatically mean the article is about me. Darlington Heights is not huge, but it is not one house either. There are probably a few men around here who are 44. There may even be another one who lives alone and keeps to himself. But the details did not stop there. I work evenings at a warehouse. I drive a forklift. I load pallets, move inventory, and spend half my shift listening to the reverse beeps of machines and the other half trying not to think about how loud the place is. I also play guitar, though not well enough to brag about it. I keep one in the living room, leaning against the bookshelf. Sometimes after work, when I am too tired to sleep right away, I sit there and play the same handful of songs badly until my fingers hurt. And yes, I have a neighbor I talk to about his birds. His name is Mr. Callahan, and he lives 2 houses down. He keeps bird feeders all over his backyard. Cardinals, finches, blue jays, sparrows, all kinds of birds show up there. I do ask him about them. Not every day, but often enough. Usually when I am taking the trash out or checking the mail, and he is outside filling the feeders. He tells me which birds have been coming around, which ones are fighting, which ones are rare for the season. I do not know why I ask. Maybe because he likes talking about them. Maybe because it is easier than talking about work or family or the weather. The article said the neighbor described the man as quiet and reserved. I do not think of myself that way, but maybe other people do. I do mostly keep to myself. I wave. I answer questions. I say good morning. But I do not invite people over, and I do not stand in driveways talking for an hour. If a neighbor had to describe me to the news, maybe that is exactly what they would say. So yes, this freaked me out. At first, I tried to find normal explanations. That is what you do when something feels impossible. You start building walls around it. Maybe the article was fake. Maybe it was an AI-generated local news story using common details. Maybe the website was one of those junk sites that pulls random facts from public records and turns them into scary content. Maybe I had clicked something personalized, something designed to scare me by using data about me. That sounded insane, but it sounded less insane than the article predicting my death. I checked the website. It looked like a normal local news site, or at least close enough that I could not immediately call it fake. The layout was boring. The ads were normal. There were other local articles about city council, traffic delays, a school fundraiser, and a restaurant inspection. Nothing about it looked like one of those obvious scam pages. I searched the headline, but I did not find much. I searched Star and Southdale and Darlington Heights. Some results came up. Enough to make me more uncomfortable, not less. Then I checked the time on the article. Today, it said the man died today. That was when I started feeling like the floor under me was not as solid as it had been a few minutes earlier. I looked around my living room, as if the danger might be standing in the corner waiting politely for me to notice it. Nothing was there. The same couch, the same coffee table, the same guitar, the same jacket thrown over the chair, the same front door with the chain lock hanging loose because I never use it during the day. Everything looked normal, which almost made it worse. If you were going to be warned about your own death, part of you expects thunder, shadows, something dramatic, not an ordinary afternoon with a cooking show whispering from the TV. The article said the man stepped onto his front porch to retrieve a food delivery order shortly before the incident occurred. That line made my stomach turn, because I had just ordered Chinese food. I'm not joking. About 10 minutes before I saw the article, I had ordered from Golden Wok, the place near the gas station. Fried rice, orange chicken, dumplings, and an iced tea. I order from them more often than I should. I had not thought anything of it. I was hungry, and I did not feel like cooking before work. Now the order was on its way, and according to the article, a man who sounded exactly like me had died after stepping onto his porch to get food delivery. Coincidence? I wanted it to be. I really did. But you have to understand how it felt in that moment. It was not like reading a horoscope and twisting the words until they fit. This was specific. Too specific. My age, my neighborhood, my job, my guitar, my bird neighbor, my food delivery. The porch. I opened the doorbell camera app on my phone. My hands were sweating, and my thumb did not work right the first time. I pulled up the live view first. The porch was empty. afternoon light, the front steps, the doormat, the small crack in the concrete near the railing that I always mean to fix. The delivery had not arrived yet. No person standing there, no animal, no shadow moving in a way it should not. Then I checked the recorded footage from earlier. I do not know what I expected to see. Maybe someone walking up and looking at the house. Maybe a stranger placing something on the porch. Maybe a glitch, a blank spot, or my own body standing outside when I knew I had not gone out. But the footage showed nothing strange. The mail truck passed around noon. A kid rode by on a bike. Mr. Callahan walked to his mailbox in a faded blue shirt. A delivery van passed without stopping. Normal things. The normal things did not calm me down. I went to the front window and looked outside. The neighborhood was quiet. There was a slight breeze moving the leaves, but no strong wind that could knock down a branch or throw something through the air. The sky was bright blue. No storm clouds. No lightning. No one hiding near the bushes. No strange car parked across the street. No dog watching the house. No loose power line. No obvious trap. Nothing that looked like it could kill me. That should have helped. It did not. Instead, I felt like I was in one of those horror movies where the character knows something is coming, but not what it is. I felt watched, not by a person outside the window, but by the story itself. I know that sounds stupid. Stories do not watch people. Articles do not reach out and grab you. Words on a screen cannot decide your future. But sitting there, staring at my own porch, I did not feel like I had read the article. I felt like the article had found me. I tried to think about who could have written it. The article mentioned a post on r/no sleep, a story that described the man's own death. I had not written anything on Reddit. I read sometimes, but I rarely post. I definitely had not written a story about my death. I opened Reddit and searched for the phrase from the article, "I'm definitely not going outside today." A few results came up, but none that matched. Some were old posts. Some were comments. Some were people joking about not wanting to leave the house. I could not find the exact story mentioned in the article. That bothered me too. If the article was real, where was the post? If the post existed, why could I not find it? Had it been deleted? Had the article been written before the post appeared? Or was this all some machine-made thing that created a news story out of details scraped from my life? That thought made me cold. Because the algorithm already knows too much. It knows what I buy. It knows what restaurants I order from. It knows what videos I watch when I cannot sleep. It knows I looked up guitar strings last week. It knows I searched, "Why are cardinals so red?" after talking to Mr. Callahan. It knows my address. It knows my age. It knows my work schedule, probably from location data. Maybe it even knows I live alone. How hard would it be for some system to write a story about me? How hard would it be for it to guess what would scare me? But why would it write that I died? And why did it feel like a warning? I locked the front door. Then I locked the deadbolt. Then I put the chain on. I checked the back door too, even though the article said front porch. I closed the curtains in the kitchen. I turned off the TV because the cheerful cooking show voice was starting to make me angry. I walked through every room of the house. Bedroom, bathroom, spare room, laundry room, basement stairs. I even opened the closet near the hallway, feeling ridiculous as I did it. Nothing was there. I called Golden Walk to ask if I could cancel the order. The line rang twice, then went to hold music. I waited. The music played for almost a minute. Then the call dropped. I called again. Busy, I opened the delivery app and tried to cancel from there, but it said the restaurant was already preparing my order. I tried to message the driver, but no driver had been assigned yet. That was when a thought came to me that made me almost laugh. I did not have to go outside. That was it. That was the solution. The article said the man stepped onto his front porch to retrieve the order before the incident happened. So, I would not step onto the porch. I would let the food sit there. I would wait until morning if I had to. I would call someone else to get it. I would ask the driver to leave it far from the door, or I would simply not eat it. I had food in the house. I was not going to die over orange chicken. The more I thought about it, the more logical it seemed. Whatever this was, if the article was somehow connected to me, I had been given one clear piece of information. The porch mattered. The food delivery mattered. So I would not go outside. Easy, except it did not feel easy. Because what if the porch was only one part of it? What if trying to avoid it was part of what made it happen? That is how these stories work, right? Someone reads a prophecy, tries to avoid it, and walks straight into it. Maybe I would refuse to go outside, then hear the driver calling, then open the door to shout through the crack, then something would happen. Maybe the food would never arrive, and I would go outside later to check why. Maybe Mr. Callahan would come over and knock, and I would open the door. Maybe there was no way to avoid it, because the story had already been written. I hate that I am thinking like this. I know how I sound. If someone else wrote this, I would probably roll my eyes at parts of it. I would think, just stay inside, man. Call the police. Call a friend. Do something useful instead of posting online. But when it is your house, your porch, your age, your life being described in a news article before anything has happened, clear thinking becomes harder. I did call the non-emergency police number. I did not know how to explain it without sounding unstable. I said I had seen something online that seemed to describe a threat against me. The woman on the phone asked if the article named me. I said no. She asked if anyone had directly threatened me. I said no. She asked if there was someone outside my house. I looked through the curtain and said no. She told me to stay inside, keep the doors locked, and call 911 if I saw anything suspicious. That was probably the best answer she could give. It did not help. After that, I called my sister. She did not answer. I thought about calling a friend from work, but then I imagined trying to explain it. Hey, I read a news article that might be about my own death. Can you come sit with me until my Chinese food gets here? I could already hear how insane it would sound. I sent one text to my sister, asking her to call me when she could. She still is not. The delivery app finally updated. Driver assigned, 10 minutes away. I stared at the little moving icon on the map as it came closer. Every few seconds, I looked out the window. The street still looked normal. A woman walked a small white dog on the other side of the road. A pickup truck drove by. The wind moved the leaves. Nothing attacked anyone. Nothing fell from the sky. 5 minutes away. I checked the doorbell camera again. Empty porch. Empty steps. I zoomed in on the doormat like something might be hiding under it, which is stupid because it is a thin mat and could not hide anything bigger than a spider. I checked the roofline, the porch light, the railing. The hanging plant my mother gave me that I forgot to water for 3 days last week. Everything was normal. 3 minutes away. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I went into the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife from the block, then put it back, because standing in my living room with a knife made me feel even crazier. I picked up my phone instead. Then I put my shoes on without knowing why. Then I took them off because I was not going outside. I kept pacing from the couch to the window and back. 1 minute away, the app showed the driver turning onto my street. Then my phone buzzed. Your order has arrived. At the same second, the doorbell rang. I froze. The sound seemed louder than it should have been. It echoed through the house, bright and normal and terrible. I looked at the doorbell camera. The porch was visible on the screen. A brown paper bag sat on the doormat. The driver was already walking back down the steps toward his car. Nothing else was there. He got into the car. He drove away. The bag stayed on the porch. Steam or heat rose faintly from the folded top. The receipt was stapled to it. The iced tea sat beside it in a plastic cup. I did not move. I waited for something to happen. A branch to fall. A person to step out from the side of the house. The porch to collapse. The bag to move. The camera to glitch. Anything, nothing happened. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. The food was still there. I told myself that this proved it was nothing. The article had scared me, but the danger was not real. The food had arrived, the driver had left, and I was alive. I could just leave it there until morning. It would be cold, probably ruined, but who cares? I could make toast. I could eat cereal. I could do anything except open that door. Then someone knocked. Not the doorbell this time. A knock. 3 slow knocks on the front door. I nearly dropped my phone. I checked the camera. No one was there. The bag was still on the mat. The porch was empty. The steps were empty. The street beyond was empty. I stood in the living room, staring at the screen, and then the knock came again. 3 slow knocks from the front door. I do not know what is outside. I do not know if the camera is frozen or if something is standing where it cannot be seen. I do not know if the article made this happen, predicted it, or if it is just a trap made out of all the details the internet already knows about me. I only know that I am inside and the food is outside, and something just knocked on my door from a porch that my camera says is empty. I am writing this now because I need someone else to know. If the article disappears, if this post disappears, if the news updates later and says a 44-year-old Southdale man died outside his home in Darlington Heights, at least there will be a record that I saw it before it happened. There is another knock. This time, it is softer, almost polite. I am not answering it. I am not opening the door. I am not stepping onto the porch. I do not care if the food sits there until it rots. I do not care if the driver comes back. I do not care if every neighbor on the street knocks on my windows and tells me I am being stupid. I'm definitely not going outside today. Story 4. I know exactly how this is going to sound. I know that before I even start. And that is the reason I have not gone to the police. It is also the reason I have not told my family, my friends, my neighbors, or anyone who might try to help me. Because the second I say it out loud to a real person, it becomes something I have to accept. It stops being a nightmare that might fade if I wait long enough. It becomes real. And right now, I do not think my mind can survive that. I am writing it here because I need to put it somewhere. I need someone, anyone, to hear it, even if they think I am grieving, losing my mind, or making it all up for attention. I wish that was all this was. I wish I could blame it on grief, stress, or sleep deprivation. But I know what I saw. I know what stood outside my door. And worse than that, I know something stood behind me while it happened. My wife died 3 years ago in a highway accident during a heavy rainstorm. I still hate driving in the rain because of it. I hate the sound of tires hissing over wet roads. I hate the shine of headlights on black pavement. I hate the way the world looks smeared through a windshield when the wipers cannot keep up. Sometimes, when it rains at night, I still feel my chest tighten before I even know why. The accident was bad enough that by the time I got there, the police had already blocked off 2 lanes and covered her car with a tarp. I did not see the crash happen. I did not see the moment it ended her life. I only saw what came after. There were flashing lights everywhere, red and blue reflected in the puddles on the road. Rain ran down my face and into my mouth, and I remember tasting dirt and salt and gasoline. Someone kept asking me to step back. I remember a police officer putting a hand on my chest and telling me not to look. He said it gently, like he had said it many times before to people who were about to ruin themselves. But I looked anyway. I do not know why. Maybe because part of me needed to make sure it was really her. Maybe because I thought if I saw her, I could somehow still reach her. Maybe because my mind refused to understand that a person could leave the house in the morning and become something hidden under a tarp before dinner. I regretted looking the moment I did it. After that night, my life became a blur. People talk about grief like it is sadness, but it is not just sadness. Sadness is clean. Grief is messy. It rots things slowly. It ruins your sleep, your memory, your appetite, your sense of time. It changes how rooms feel. It makes your own house unfamiliar. For months after she died, I would still turn my head when I heard a car door outside. I would buy her favorite cereal and not realize what I had done until I was standing in the kitchen with the box in my hands. I would wake up reaching for her, and when my hand touched the cold, empty side of the bed, I would feel like I had lost her all over again. People say grief changes your memory. Maybe they are right. Maybe that is why, even after 3 years, my body still remembers things my mind has tried to bury. Every evening at exactly 8:32 p.m., I look toward the front door. I do not mean to do it. I do not sit there expecting her to come home. I know she is dead. I have known that every day for 3 years. But 8:32 p.m. was the time she usually got home from work. Not 8:30, not 8:35. It was almost always 8:32. She used to joke that the universe ran on her schedule. She would unlock the door, step inside with her black handbag hanging from her shoulder, and say something about traffic, her boss, or how the rain had ruined her hair. If I took too long to open the door when she forgot her keys, she would knock and call through the door, "You're taking too long." I had not heard those words in 3 years. Yesterday evening, I was sitting in the living room with the TV on low. I was not really watching it. I do that a lot now, leave noise on so the house does not feel too empty. It had been raining again, the kind of steady rain that taps at the windows and makes every room feel colder. I remember checking my phone around 8:20 and thinking I should make something to eat, but I did not move. I just sat there, listening to the rain and the low voices from the television. Then, at exactly 8:32 p.m., someone knocked on the front door. 3 slow knocks. Not a quick knock. Not a loud banging. Just 3 calm, patient knocks. I looked at the clock first. That was the first thing I did. I remember that clearly because I laughed a little under my breath. It was not a happy laugh. It was the kind of laugh you make when something lines up too perfectly and your brain does not know how else to react. I thought it had to be a delivery driver, even though I had not ordered anything. Or maybe one of the neighborhood kids messing around. There are a few who cut across the yard sometimes, and one of them once rang my doorbell at midnight and ran away laughing. I walked to the door slowly. I do not know why I felt nervous already. It was just a knock. People knock on doors every day. But something about the timing made the air feel heavier. The hallway seemed longer than usual. The light above the stairs flickered once, and I stopped with my hand halfway to the door. Then I leaned in and looked through the peephole. My wife was standing outside. I stopped breathing. She was wearing the same dark coat she had been wearing the day she died. The same black handbag hung from her shoulder. Her hair was damp and stuck lightly to her cheeks, like she had just walked home through the rain. Her face was pale, but not in a dead way. Not at first. She looked tired, maybe cold, but she looked like herself. Exactly like herself. The shape of her mouth. The small line between her eyebrows when she was annoyed. The way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other while waiting. For a few seconds, my brain simply refused to work. I did not think, she is dead. I did not think, this is impossible. I did not think anything at all. I just stared through the little circle of glass while my body went cold. Then, she smiled. It was not a huge smile. It was not twisted or monstrous. That might have been easier. Somehow, it was just her normal smile. The one she used to give me when she came home and found me standing there like I had forgotten how doors worked. Then she spoke through the door. "You're taking too long." Those words broke something inside me. I do not remember unlocking the deadbolt. I do not remember turning the handle. I do not remember deciding to open the door. One moment I was staring through the peephole, and the next she was inside my house, walking past me as if nothing had happened. As if 3 years had not passed. As if I had not buried her, mourned her, and slowly learned how to live around the empty space she left behind. She stepped into the hallway and left faint, wet footprints on the hardwood floor. I stared at them because they were easier to look at than her face. They were real. The water was real. The rain on her coat was real. The smell of cold air came in with her. I could hear the soft creak of the floor under her shoes. She walked into the kitchen and flicked the light switch. Nothing happened because the kitchen lights were off at the wall near the living room. She turned her head slightly and said, "Why are all the lights off?" Same voice, same tone, same small note of complaint, like I had done something mildly annoying but forgivable. I started crying before I could stop myself. It came out of me in a way that was ugly and loud. I had imagined seeing her again 1,000 times, but in those dreams I was always prepared. I knew what I wanted to say. I knew I would tell her I loved her, that I missed her, that I was sorry for all the small arguments that no longer mattered. But standing there in the real kitchen, with rain dripping from her coat onto the floor, all I could say was, "Where have you been?" She turned toward me with a confused look. Then she laughed softly. "At work," she said. "Where else would I be?" I wanted to believe her. God help me. I wanted to believe her so badly that for a few seconds I almost did. I wanted to pretend the last 3 years had been a mistake, a terrible misunderstanding, a nightmare I had finally woken from. I wanted to walk over, hold her, and let the whole world rearrange itself around the impossible fact that she was back. But something was wrong. It was not one big thing. If she had walked in with black eyes or a broken neck or mud in her mouth, I would have understood the danger right away. But it was smaller than that. Worse than that. She answered my questions, but there was always a tiny pause before she spoke, like she had to search for the right response. She smiled, but sometimes it came a fraction of a second too late. She blinked, but not often enough. Her eyes stayed on me too steadily, like she was studying the way I reacted. Like she was learning. I asked her what she had done at work. She said, the usual. I asked if traffic had been bad. She paused, then said, because of the rain, that made sense. It should have made sense. But the way she said it felt like someone repeating a line they had heard before. She took off her coat and hung it on the back of a kitchen chair. I saw her hands then. She still wore her gold wedding ring. The sight of it made my knees feel weak. I reached toward her without meaning to, and she watched my hand like she did not understand what it wanted. Then she looked past me toward the hallway mirror. Her whole body froze. It was sudden and complete. One moment she was standing there with that almost normal expression, and the next she was perfectly still. Her face changed in a way that made my skin crawl. The soft confusion vanished. The careful smile vanished. What replaced it was pure fear. I turned slightly, thinking maybe she had seen something in the mirror behind me. But then I realized she was not looking at her reflection. She was looking at mine. No, not even mine. She was looking at the space behind me. Her voice came out quiet. "Who's standing behind you?" I felt my stomach drop so hard, it was like the floor disappeared under me. There was no one behind me. I knew there was no one behind me. I had walked through that hallway alone. The front door was closed. The house was empty except for us. Still, I spun around so fast I nearly slipped. The hallway was empty. The mirror showed only the dim hall, the front door, the stairs, and me standing there with my face drained of color. When I turned back, my wife was no longer pretending to be calm. She looked terrified, not surprised, not confused. Terrified, her eyes were fixed over my shoulder, wide and wet, like whatever she saw was still there even though I could not see it. "What?" I whispered. She swallowed. Her lips barely moved. "Don't let it learn your face." Then every light in the house blew out at once, not one by one, all at the same time. The kitchen, the hall, the living room, even the porch light outside. Everything went black. I heard glass rattle somewhere. The television cut off with a sharp pop. For 1 second, the darkness was so complete that I could not tell if my eyes were open or closed. Then I heard movement in the kitchen. Fast movement. Heavy movement. It did not sound like my wife walking. It did not even sound like one person. It sounded like several things moving at once, rushing around the room, circling the table, scraping against the cabinets. Footsteps slapped against the floor. But the rhythm was wrong. Too quick. Too uneven. Some were close to me, then suddenly far away, then above me, then behind me again. Something knocked into a chair and sent it skidding across the tiles. I backed into the wall and nearly screamed. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. I fumbled with the screen, missed the flashlight button twice, then finally turned it on. The beam cut through the kitchen. It was empty. My wife was gone. The chair she had touched was still pulled slightly away from the table. Her dark coat was no longer hanging over the back of it. The floor was wet where she had stood. The back door was wide open, swinging gently in the rain. Wet footprints led from the kitchen into the yard. They were hers at first, small, normal, the same prints she had left in the hallway. But they were not the only ones. There was another set of footprints on the floor. Longer, distorted, they did not look like shoes. They did not even look fully human. The toes were stretched too far forward, and the heel marks were thin and deep, like whatever made them carry too much weight on legs that did not fit right. The prints came from nowhere. They began in the middle of the kitchen and stopped behind the exact place where I had been standing. Right behind me, like something had been there the entire time, watching us, listening. I do not remember closing the back door. I must have done it because it was closed later, but I do not remember moving. I remember standing with my phone flashlight shaking in my hand, staring at those long, wet footprints until the water began to spread and lose shape. I did not sleep that night. I turned every lamp back on after replacing the breaker, though I do not know what caused it to trip. I checked every window. I locked both doors. I dragged a chair in front of the back door like that would help. Then I sat in the living room with my back against the wall, holding a kitchen knife in one hand and my phone in the other, waiting for morning. Every sound made me flinch. The refrigerator humming, the house settling. rain in the gutters. Once, around 3 a.m., I thought I heard someone whisper from the hallway. But when I turned my phone flashlight toward it, nothing was there. At sunrise, I finally stood up and checked the floor again. The footprints were gone, not dried. Gone, there was no dirt, no water stain, no mark in the wood. Even the wet footprints my wife had left were gone. The kitchen looked normal, except for the chair still sitting crooked near the table and the deadbolt on the back door turned the wrong way. I tried to convince myself I had imagined it. I really did. I told myself I had fallen asleep on the couch and dreamed the whole thing. I told myself grief had finally caught up with me. I told myself that 3 years of staring at the door at 8:32 had created something in my head, some break in reality that existed only for me. Then I went to the front door. There were 3 dark watermarks on the porch where someone had stood in the rain, and lying beside the welcome mat was a single gold earring. Her earring, one of the pairs she had worn the day she died. I kept it in my hand for hours. I knew I should call someone. I knew I should throw it away, or take it to the police, or ask a doctor what kind of mental illness makes dead people leave jewelry behind. But I did none of that. I sat in the house all day with the curtains open and the lights on, watching the clock like it was a bomb. As evening came, the rain started again. Not heavy at first, just a soft tapping against the windows. By 8 p.m., I was standing in the hallway, staring at the front door. By 8:20, I had pushed the couch in front of it. By 8:30, I was holding the knife again. At exactly 8:32 p.m., someone knocked. 3 slow knocks. The sound went through the whole house. I did not move. I did not breathe. I stood there behind the couch with my hand over my mouth, staring at the door. Then I heard her voice. This time she was crying. Not pretending, not speaking in that almost normal way from last night. She was sobbing on the other side of the door. Broken, desperate sobs. The kind of crying I had only heard from her once, years ago, when her mother died. "Please," she whispered. I gripped the knife tighter. "Please open the door." Her voice cracked on the last word, and it almost broke me again. I took one step forward before I could stop myself. Then she said something that made me freeze. It knows my face now. The hallway went cold. I backed away from the door, shaking my head even though she could not see me. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." She cried harder. "It wore me wrong last night," she said. "It made mistakes. I tried to warn you. I tried, but it was standing behind you the whole time. It was watching your reactions. It was learning what scared you. It was learning what you missed." My throat tightened so badly I could barely speak. "What are you?" I asked. There was a long silence. Then she answered, very softly. "I don't know anymore." Something scraped against the other side of the door. Not her nails. Something heavier. Longer, dragging slowly from the top of the wood down to the handle. My wife started whispering fast, like she was running out of time. "Do not look through the peephole tonight. Do not let it see you clearly. Do not say my name. Do not answer if it speaks with my voice after I stop crying." I stepped back until I hit the wall. "What does it want?" The crying stopped. For a few seconds, there was only the rain. Then my wife said, "It wants to come home." I heard her take a shaky breath. "And it thinks home is wherever someone remembers you enough to open the door." Behind me, from the dark hallway mirror, something knocked 3 times on the glass. Story 5. I am hiding like some dirty little pest in a cheap hotel room that smells like old carpet, cold smoke, and wet walls. The heater under the window makes noise, but it does not make the room warm. The blanket on the bed is thin, and the sheets feel damp. like this place has been waiting for someone desperate enough to sleep here. I do not think there are many other guests in the building. Maybe none at all. Not in a hotel like this. Not on this side of the city. The hallway outside my door has been silent for hours, except for the buzzing light above the stairs and the old pipes groaning inside the walls. I came here because I had nowhere else to go. I came here because I thought distance might help. I thought if I got far enough away from the people who still loved me, maybe they would live. Maybe the thing following me would have nothing left to feed on. But it is here with me now. I can feel it in the room. I can feel it watching from the dark corner near the bathroom door. It does not need to breathe. It does not need to move. It only waits. There is a horror attached to me. I do not know what else to call it. A parasite, a sickness, a ghost, a thing that eats the lives of people who get close to me. It does not come at them with teeth or claws. It is worse than that. It drains them slowly. It takes the warmth out of them, drop by drop, until their bodies turn weak and some sickness gets inside. Then they fade. They cough. They lose weight. Their skin changes color. Their eyes sink into their faces. Doctors use names for it. Pneumonia, infection, cancer, heart failure. Complications, but I know what is really happening. It is me, or the thing that follows me. Maybe there is no difference anymore. It will kill everyone around me if I stay near them. I do not know how long it has been with me. Maybe it has been here since I was born. Maybe it was standing in the corner of the hospital room when my mother first held me. Maybe it was looking over her shoulder with those dark, empty eyes, already choosing what it would take from us. Sometimes I think back to my childhood and wonder if the signs were always there. My family was always getting sick. Not normal sick, not just colds and fevers like other families. It was always something that lasted too long. Something that turned serious. Something that made adults speak softly in kitchens when they thought I was asleep. Was that the ghost even then? My best friend in elementary school died from pneumonia. She was 7. One week we were trading stickers and talking about what we wanted to be when we grew up. The next week, her desk was empty. The teacher told us she was sick. Then there were flowers in the front office and adults crying in the hallway. I remember everyone saying it was tragic, that sometimes terrible things happen for no reason. But now I know there was a reason. She sat beside me every day. She shared her snacks with me. She held my hand on the playground when I was scared to climb the monkey bars. She got close to me, and the thing noticed her. My father is the only person from the family I grew up with who is still alive. Barely, his body has been failing for years, but he keeps pretending he is fine. He says he is just tired. He says he is getting older. He says everyone has bad days. But I have seen the way his hands shake when he thinks I am not looking. I have heard him coughing in the bathroom late at night. I have seen him sit at the kitchen table and stare at nothing, like standing up would take more strength than he has left. He will not get better. Not while I am near him. No one around me gets better. Right now, I know he is trying to find me. He is probably driving around the city, calling everyone he knows, checking bus stations, hospitals, shelters, and police stations. He will be printing posters. He always does things with his hands when he is scared. He will tape my photo to walls and windows and telephone poles. He will ask strangers if they have seen me. He will call me again and again, even though I turned my phone off hours ago. He will blame himself. That is what hurts the most. He will think he failed me. He will think he should have watched me closer. But after enough days pass, he will have to stop looking. Maybe not because he wants to. Maybe because his body will not let him keep going. I hope one day he reads this and understands why I left. But not today. not while I am still breathing, not while the ghost is still hungry. I do not really know what the thing is. I only know it is attached to me. I know it follows me from room to room, year to year, house to house. I have seen it. Maybe I have always seen it. Maybe I saw it before I knew words, standing at the end of my crib while my mother slept in a chair nearby. Maybe when I was a baby, I looked into those eyes and cried until my throat hurt. And everyone thought I was just hungry or tired. Maybe as I got older, I taught myself not to believe what I was seeing. Children see monsters. Children have nightmares. Children make up shapes in the dark. That is what people tell themselves. But mine was not imaginary. It was my ghost. I truly understood it when I was a teenager. By then, my life had already become a house full of sickness and quiet fear. I spent many nights trapped in my bedroom, unable to sleep, staring at the door because I knew it was there. It would stand in front of the door like a guard. At first, it was only a dark shape, tall enough to be a person, but wrong in its outline, heavy in some places and thin in others. I would lie in bed pretending to sleep, barely opening my eyes so I could look at it through my lashes. It never moved much. It did not need to. It just stood there and watched me. Sometimes I would pull the blanket over my head and count my breaths. Sometimes I would tell myself that if I did not look at it, then it could not be real. But the room always felt colder when it came. The air grew thick. My skin prickled. I could feel its attention on me like dirty fingers. One night, I could not take it anymore. I kept a flashlight under my pillow because I was still young enough to believe light could save me. I grabbed it and pointed it at the shape by the door. For the first time, I saw more than darkness. Its skin was pale green, like old meat left too long in water. Its body was bloated and unwashed, swollen in places where no body should be swollen. It had no hair. Its arms hung too low, and its fingers looked long and soft, like worms. The smell hit me next. Damp cloth. Rot, a hospital room after someone dies. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. My throat closed. I dropped the flashlight and curled up in my bed, shaking so hard my teeth hurt. It stayed there until morning. It watched me cry all night. When sunlight came through the curtains, I opened my eyes again, and the doorway was empty. But I knew it had not left. I went to school that morning looking like I had not slept in days. Maybe I looked like I was on drugs. Maybe teachers whispered about me. Maybe other kids noticed and stayed away. I do not blame them. I must have seemed strange. But I had reasons. My brother was dying then. My brother had always been loud and strong, the kind of kid who ran through the house and knocked things over and laughed when people yelled at him. Then he got sick. It started with a cough. Everyone said it was nothing. Then he got thinner. His cheeks hollowed. His clothes hung off him. He spent more time in bed. My mother tried not to cry around us, but I heard her through the walls. My father stopped making jokes. The house became quiet except for coughing, whispering, and the sound of medicine bottles being opened. I would sit outside my brother's room and listen to him breathe. Sometimes the ghost would stand at the end of the hallway, watching both of us. After my brother died, I started to understand the pattern. People close to me did not stay alive. The ghost has become angrier recently. I think it hates the way I live now. I think it hates that I have been alone for so long. Maybe it needs people near me to feed properly. Maybe loneliness starves it. Maybe that should make me feel powerful, but it does not. It only makes me more afraid. Because a hungry thing does not become kind. It becomes desperate. I have been so lonely that sometimes I feel like I am turning into dust inside my own skin. I do not know what the ghost wants from me. I do not know if it wants me to suffer or if it wants me to keep bringing people near so it can take them. I do not know if there is any way to stop it. I cannot talk to anyone about it because no one believes me. They look at me with pity. That is always how it starts. Soft voices, careful questions, faces that say they have already decided what I am. Broken, sick, delusional. They say my ghost is the way my mind explains grief. They talk about trauma, dissociation, survivor's guilt, and control. They say when a person loses too much, the mind builds patterns where there are none. They tell me about coping mechanisms. They tell me about grounding exercises. They sit across from me in warm offices with soft chairs and framed medical diplomas on the walls, and they refuse to understand. It is not in my head. I see him. Every night, I see him. And he is getting angrier. A few months ago, I made the worst mistake I could have made. I tried to fight the loneliness. I had been living like a prisoner for a year by then. I stayed in my room. I avoided neighbors. I did not go to family gatherings. I stopped answering messages. I stopped talking to my father except when I had to. He thought I hated him. Maybe. He thought grief had made me cruel. But I was trying to save him. He had already lost his wife. He had lost 2 children. In some ways, he had lost me too. I wanted at least one of us to survive. But isolation does something to a person. It does not happen all at once. At first, you tell yourself you are being careful. Then, days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. You stop remembering what your own voice sounds like when you are not answering a question. You start feeling less like a person and more like a shape moving through rooms. So I started talking to people online. It felt safer. They lived far away. They were not in my house. They were not sitting beside me. They were just voices in a headset and messages on a screen. We played video games together late at night. We laughed. We complained about bad teammates. We shared stupid jokes. For a little while, I forgot what I was. I forgot that anyone close to me was in danger. I told myself distance mattered. I told myself the ghost could not reach through a screen. I was wrong. A few nights ago, I woke up in bed and opened my eyes to find it standing directly over me. Not by the door, not in the corner, over me. Its head was above mine, hanging down in the darkness, close enough that I could see the wet shine of its skin. It was looking into my face with those empty holes where a person should have eyes. There was nothing human in them. No mercy. No thought I could understand. Only hunger and hatred. Then it started to leak its pain. I do not know how else to describe it. The room filled with something that was not sound at first. A pressure. A grief so heavy it felt physical. Then the screaming began. It screamed at me from everywhere at once. From the walls, from under the bed, from inside my own teeth. It was so loud I thought my skull would split. I clapped my hands over my ears, but that did nothing. The scream was inside the room and inside my body. It felt like every person who had ever died near me was crying out at the same time. I could not stay there. I threw myself out of bed and ran. I did not put on shoes. I did not grab a coat. I just ran out of my room, down the hall, and through the front door. The screaming followed me. I heard it coming from the house as I stumbled onto the street in my pajamas. It was the middle of the night. The neighborhood was dark and cold. Every pebble and broken piece of pavement stabbed into my bare feet. My lungs burned. My hands shook. I looked back only once. The ghost was in my bedroom window. It stood behind the glass, staring down at me, still screaming. Its mouth hung open too wide. Its face was pressed close to the window. Street light touched its skin and made it look even worse, wet and pale and dead. I walked around the neighborhood until sunrise. I do not know where I went. I remember cold pavement, empty sidewalks, a dog barking behind a fence, my feet bleeding, my breath making little clouds in the air. I remember thinking that if anyone saw me, they would think I was insane. When I finally came back home, the sun was coming up. The ghost was still in my room. It stood in the morning light like it had no reason to hide anymore. That was the first time I saw all of it clearly. Its body was discolored and hairless, bloated in the middle, twisted in the limbs, deformed in ways that made my eyes want to slide away from it. Its head was small and shriveled, like it did not belong to the body. Its eyes were huge dark pits, empty but full of hate. Its mouth stayed open, not because it was screaming anymore, but because it seemed unable to close. It stopped screaming when I entered. It just stared. That was somehow worse. I understood then that it was angry because I had cut myself off from people. It was angry because I had stopped feeding it. It wanted me near others. It wanted love, friendship, family, anything warm enough to drain. There was no one I could go to, no one who would believe me. If you believe me, maybe that means you are insane too. But I am not insane. I know what insanity looks like from the outside because I have seen it in the faces of people listening to me. This is not that. My ghost is real. It is watching me right this now. It is across the hotel room, standing near the window. The curtains are partly open, and streetlights from the parking lot shine through the glass. The light touches its face in thin yellow lines. Its eyes are fixed on me. They are full of anger. But underneath that anger is something like satisfaction. It knows I am tired. It knows I have nowhere left to run. The day after it screamed at me, one of my online friends got sick. Really sick. At first, the messages in our group chat said he had been taken to the hospital. Then, someone said it was serious. Then, someone else said the doctors did not know what was happening. His organs were failing. His breathing was bad. His family was being told to think about end-of-life care. End of life care. I stared at those words until they stopped looking like words. He lived far away. He had never been in my room. I had never touched him. I had never even seen him in person. But he had known me. He had laughed with me. He had called me his friend. That was enough. That night, the ghost looked satisfied. I could not stay home after that. I waited until my father fell asleep, then I took what money I could find. I know that was wrong. I know he will see the empty drawer and feel another kind of pain. But I had to leave before I killed him, too. I put a few clothes in a bag, walked to the bus station, and got on the first bus that took me to the other side of the city. I have been in this hotel ever since. I paid cash. The man at the front desk barely looked at me. The room has one bed, one chair, a bathroom with cracked tiles, and a television that only gets 3 channels. It is the kind of room where people come when they do not want to be found. Maybe that is why it feels right. In the morning, I am taking another bus. There is a small town about 4 hours from here. I picked it because I do not know anyone there. From there, I will walk away from the roads and houses and people. I will go where there are trees and cold ground and no one close enough for the ghost to take. I know I will not come back. I do not know if the wilderness will kill me or if the ghost will finally do it itself. Maybe it will not matter. Maybe all that matters is that no one else will have to pay for being near me. It is what I deserve. 17, that is the number I keep in my head. 17 people close to me have gotten sick and died. My mother, my 2 siblings, my grandmother, 5 friends, 2 classmates, 2 teachers, a coworker from a summer job, a pediatrician, a therapist. One online friend, 17 lives, 17 names I carry with me every day. People say no one person can be responsible for that much death. They would say, sickness happens. People die. The world is cruel without needing monsters. But they did not see what I saw. They did not grow up with that shape in the hallway. They did not wake up with it standing over them. They did not hear it screaming through the walls. They did not watch it look satisfied after another person fell sick. I did. I know what followed me. I know what it took. I hope one day, if there is anything after death, those 17 people can forgive me. I hope they can understand that I did not know at first. Then, when I did know, I tried to stay away. I tried to protect people. I tried to live like a ghost myself, quiet and hidden and alone. But the real ghost was always with me. It stole my mother's arms from me. It stole my brother's laugh. It stole my sister's voice. It stole friends before they had a chance to grow up. It stole teachers who only tried to help me. It stole a doctor who smiled too kindly. It stole a therapist who believed I was just a wounded person who needed time. It stole the one online friend who made me laugh when I thought I had forgotten how. It stole my chance at a life. Now, I can hear the floor creak. The ghost has moved closer. It is no longer by the window. It is near the end of the bed, staring down at the pages as I write. Its mouth is open. Its skin shines in the weak light. The room smells worse now, damp and rotten and old. I do not think it wants me to leave tomorrow. I think it knows what I am planning. I think it understands that I am trying to take away its food forever. For the first time in my life, I think it is afraid. I hope it is. I hope when I walk into that cold, empty place, it follows me all the way. I hope it stays attached to me. I hope it finds no one else to touch, no other life to drain, no other family to destroy. And when I die, I hope my ghost dies with me.